Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Devin Sears. I'll be joined shortly by my coworker Tiffany, and today we're talking about how to start a successful blog for content creators. So as I mentioned, my name is Devin. I'll be joined by Tiffany. She is the content and social marketing manager here at Bluehost. And we've got a lot of information we want to cover with you today. So first things first, let's make sure that everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, find the questions box and drop your favorite emoji, or since we're talking about blogs, if you have a blog that you like to follow, or you can drop that blog, or you can tell us what kind of blog that you'd like to create. Awesome, I've got some emojis coming in, which actually brings me to my next point, the question box. So you can ask questions as we go through this. As I'm presenting, Tiffany will try to answer as many questions as she can. Her and I will be switching partway through. So when she starts presenting, I'll be answering as many questions as I can. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, we have a section at the end for Q&A, so we'll try to get to it. And if we don't get to it then, we'll try to follow up via email. Something else to talk about, this is being recorded and we will send out a copy of the recording once we're done, probably about 24 to 48 hours afterwards. So if you have to drop, or if you want to review everything we talk about later, then you should have access to that recording later. If you have any issues throughout the event, this phone number you can contact GoToWebinar Help Desk for anything with the webinar itself. Sadly, that platform is out of our control. So if it's something with the platform, then the best thing to do is to reach out to them directly. Okay, so let's get into it. What we'll be covering, a lot of stuff, and we kind of talked about this in two different sections. The first section is going to be more of the technical section, installing a blog, getting WordPress up and running, how to choose a theme, things to consider when you're publishing your first post, and then helpful plugins to kind of get you going along your way. The second part of this, chapters 5 through 8, that'll be more along the storytelling side of creating a blog, how to do a seamless layout, making sure that your voice comes through when you're writing your content, how to write content for SEO, how to amplify your voice, and how to monetize your site at the end. And as I mentioned before, at the end of all of this, we will be having a Q&A. So let's get into it. Chapter 1, choosing a host and choosing a domain. First of all, what is a host, or what is hosting? Very simply put, it's space on a server that you can remotely access to store your website files and serve them quickly to people accessing your website. So whenever you build a website, you need a place to store all of the files for your website. You could do it on your own laptop or your own computer, but then whenever you turned your own laptop or computer off, people would not be able to get to your website. So basically a server is putting all of your files, all of your images, everything that goes to your website on someone else's computer, in this case, Bluehost's computer. We have a giant server farm, and we never close the laptop, so to speak. We never turn it off. So people should always be able to get to your website. When you're choosing a host, obviously I'm fairly biased. I would highly recommend Bluehost for obvious reasons, but when you're examining which host you should choose from, here's a couple factors that I think are important. You want to have a host that's reliable. You want someone that has a high percentage of uptime. Usually it's like 99.99% uptime. Occasionally accidents and things do happen where the site will go down very, very temporarily, but for the most part, you want a host that's very reliable. If you're building a blog, I would highly recommend using the platform WordPress, which means when you're choosing a host, I would find one that's associated with WordPress in some way, or at least makes installing WordPress a simple and easy task to do. I would also take a look at price when you're choosing a host. If it's building your first website, then you might want to be a little bit more price conscious. You might not need all of the features and everything that comes with the higher priced host platform. So you might want to go with something that's a little bit more price conscious. Performance and specifically how quickly your site will be loading, that's always something to keep in mind when you're choosing a host. You want your visitors to be able to get to your site quickly. Anyone that's been on the internet has dealt with the frustration of trying to get to a website that's not loading. You don't want that to happen to your visitors, so you want a host that is reliable, that can load quickly. Also, I think customer support is a big one, especially if you're newer to this industry or newer to creating your own website. Having a phone number or a ticket that you could submit or call to have someone walk you through the processes or the struggles that you're going through, that's always very important, I think. And then beyond that, I think it's always nice to just take a look at the additional features that they might offer. Sometimes they come with the hosting platform, sometimes you have to pay extra. For example, backups, staging platform, analytics, marketing tools, things like that. I think those are good things to consider when you're looking at which host is going to be best for you. Up next, what is a domain? Surely anyone that's on this webinar has been to a website, but I like to give a little bit of a background just to give you a little bit more information of what's going on. Basically, a domain is a human version of an internet address. So it's memorable, unlike a computer address. Here we have some of the more popular domains across the internet. And on the right side is the domain, on the left side is the IP address. Both of those will get you to the same website, but the list on the right is much more consumable and much more memorable and easier for us to remember. The internet would be a much less traveled place if we had to memorize the IP address of every internet site we wanted to go to. So when you choose a domain, there's a handful of things to keep in mind. Your domain is an extension of your brand. And if you're building a blog, then there's a really good chance that your domain and your website is the entirety of your brand. That's everything. That's where all of your information, that's where all of your content is stored, right there on your domain. So you want to make sure that whatever domain you pick, it makes a memorable first impression. It's something that's easy to remember. It's something that's easily shared. You also want to make sure it's an accurate reflection of your website. When it comes to SEO and Google rank and things like that, they take a look at bounce rate. And so if you are writing a blog about cooking and recipes, then it's always a bonus to have some reflection of that within the title. Obviously, these are guidelines, not hard set rules. For example, we all know that Amazon.com is not about a rainforest, right? So that's not an accurate reflection, but that's a big enough brand where it doesn't matter anymore. But as you're getting started, it matters a little bit to make sure that the people that are arriving at your site are seeing the content that they expect when they go to that domain. I also highly recommend looking to make sure that you have available supporting properties to your domain. And what I mean by that is social handles. If you get a domain, before you purchase it, I would do a quick search to make sure that you can get that property on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, if that's where you're going to be present, Facebook. Make sure that you can get the adjoining properties to that domain so that you don't spend money and get all excited about a domain and then find out that someone else owns that Twitter handle or have to go through some sticky process of trying to negotiate a purchase of someone else's Instagram handle. It's just easier to see that those are available right away. I also think that getting the right TLD, which stands for top level domain, for example, .com and .org, those are some of the more popular ones. But when you're choosing a domain, making sure that you get a good TLD can be important. And I think that goes back to making sure that your domain is a reflection of your website. If you're doing something with photography, it could be .photography. If you're a party planner, then maybe .party actually fits for you. If you are specific to a country, then some domains are country codes. So I think it's important to take a look at that. And then I think it's also important to take a look at the price and also the renewal price of the domain. Some domains are treated as a premium, so they're much, much, much more expensive than other domains. And sometimes those renewal prices are even higher. So it's good to keep that in mind. And then the easy to spell, low chance of misunderstanding, I think that's just another guideline. You know, say the domain 3 times fast to a friend and see if they understand what you're saying. The last thing you want to do is have an embarrassing mistake of someone not getting to your website or losing traffic because someone didn't understand when you told them that your website is hereandnow.com. You know, there could be a couple different variations of that. You might want to consider cleaning that up a little bit so it's less likely that someone doesn't get to your website because they didn't understand your domain. Okay, so once you have your hosting and your domain picked out, we're going to go ahead and install WordPress and choose a theme. So I'm actually going to reverse the order on this. We're going to talk about choosing a theme first because I feel like most hosts, as I mentioned before, make installing WordPress much easier than it used to be. If anyone has built multiple websites, then perhaps you remember the time when you had to upload the specific files, usually through an FTP protocol, to the server specifically, and it was a whole headache. So now it's much easier. It's usually just a one-click install, and the host will install WordPress in the background. But choosing the theme can be a little bit more involved. Here's a screenshot of the WordPress.org theme repo. And as you can see here, they have over 9,000 free themes. So that's a lot to choose from. That can be a little bit overwhelming when you're just trying to find the right fit for you. So a couple factors when you're trying to find the right theme: features. Make sure it has the features you want. I kind of think of this as kind of like if you're packing for a hiking and camping trip. What do you bring for that? You want to bring everything that you need, like a tent, a sleeping bag, water, snacks, but you also don't want to bring a bunch of extra things. You probably don't need to bring your 60-inch flat screen TV. You probably can leave your dumbbells, your workout weights at home. You want to try to go as lean as you possibly can while making sure that you have all the features you need. And that's because optimization factors into how quickly your site will load. So you want to make sure that nothing in the theme is causing your site to slow down because it's an extra feature that you don't need. Another key factor, you want to make sure that your theme can be responsive. This is almost just table stakes at this point for any theme, but you want to make sure that whatever theme you pick, it can easily adapt to a mobile version of your website. People are browsing the internet increasingly on their mobile devices, so you want to make sure that your website looks just as good as it does on a phone as it does on a laptop or a desktop computer. Another key factor to look at is the price of the theme. As I mentioned before, this is 9,000 free themes, so that's a lot to choose from, but there are also premium themes that you pay for, and those prices are set by usually the theme developers. So it can range in price from $60 to $6,000 perhaps. But that's something to keep in mind as you're looking for the theme that most accurately reflects what you are trying to build with your website. Another factor is you want to make sure the theme is current. We get into this a little bit later with security, but one of the easiest ways hackers can infiltrate your website is through outdated themes and outdated plugins. So you want to make sure when you're looking at themes that you are taking the time to examine the theme and make sure that it is actively being developed. And usually you can do that by clicking onto the details and seeing the last time the theme was developed or the last time someone has made a comment or an update to the theme. And that basically tells you that there is still a developer actively working on this. The plus and minus of having a WordPress theme is that you don't know who built it. The beautiful part of WordPress is that it's open source. So anyone could develop a theme and upload it to the theme repo. When that happens, you want to make sure that you choose a theme that someone is still working on. You don't want to pick a theme that someone worked on as a college project and then has since moved on and they haven't touched it in 10 years. Even if it looks amazing, if it's not currently being developed, if there's not someone currently updating it, I would highly avoid that theme. And I would also take a look to see if a theme offers support. I mentioned that with hosting, but you can also find some themes that will give you support, whether that's submitting a ticket or calling someone on the team. This is more common when you get into the premium themes when you're paying for it. That's one of the things that you're paying for is a response and support. If you're not paying for a theme, it's you don't get as much support typically by the theme developers. There's still other ways that you can find support, but oftentimes the theme will have like a thread or like a developer page where you can submit something to a forum, and that will be answered either by someone on the theme team or by someone in the community that maybe is familiar with the theme and can respond and answer your question. So moving on, that's just a couple tips when choosing a theme. And by the way, one of the reasons I'm keeping this somewhat high level is because everyone's website is unique, just like their story. So it gets a little bit tricky to get very in the details on specific themes to choose from, or what the best theme might be for your website. Everyone's website, I feel like, is a reflection of themselves to some degree, especially if it's a blog. Usually those are more specifically a reflection of the writer and the creator of the blog. So I'm just trying to give a high level for people that maybe haven't been in this situation before, things that they should take a look at and things they should consider, especially if it's their first time. So actually installing WordPress, I mentioned before, it's usually a one-click install. We're getting to the point of my slides that I like to call the obvious red arrow. Here we can see it. This is a Bluehost dashboard if someone's not familiar with this. If you log into your Bluehost account and click on My Sites, which you can see on the left there, it gets you to a page that looks something like this. If you want to add a WordPress website, all you have to do is click on Add Site. Simple as that. Then we automatically start installing WordPress in the background. We present you with this option. If you're familiar with WordPress, if you've built a website on WordPress before, or if you have someone guiding you through the process, then the option on the left might be great for you. That'll just take you into a regular WordPress installation. If this is your first time, or you don't feel very confident in your WordPress website building abilities, then perhaps the option on the right is better suited for you. It makes it a little bit easier, it's a little bit more guided, and it starts you off with a great looking website. And just to be clear, if you do select the option on the right, you can always switch over to regular WordPress functionality. You don't lose any functionality by going with the Bluehost website builder. So for this demo, we're going to click on Start Building, and that'll take you to this next screen where it just simply asks, what's your site about? And it gives you a couple of the more popular websites that people have made. But if what you're trying to write about is not there, you can still enter a keyword, and it basically generates a site based on what you put in there. So for today's example, I talked about photography. So I put in photography already. It's given me a menu. It's given me its own version of what they think I want my landing page to be. This is just screenshots for the sake of going through it more quickly. But if I were to scroll down, it gives an About Me section, and it has populated that with other photography related stock images. And over here, we picked the topic photography, and I named my site Lens Flare. That's what my photography blog is going to be about. We're going to talk all about how to be an amazing photographer, and I'm going to share my tips and my photography journey. So this is still the onboarding, excuse me. And if you click on continue, it will take you to the next page where you can pick from free stock photos. I switched up my background just because I wanted to change a little bit. Continuing through the onboarding, it allows me to choose what the menu will look like. But as I mentioned before, this is all in WordPress. We installed WordPress back on step 1, where when we clicked add a site. So this is just getting the site up and running. And once you get through the onboarding, this is what that will look like. This is your WordPress website. Up on the top right, you can publish it once you're ready to. You can obviously click around into the elements in here and customize them. You can scroll down and change the text, change the photos, add buttons, change the color schemes. All of this is completely available, and it's pretty great, especially if it's your first time. It makes things a little bit more simple. So we have chosen a theme, we've installed WordPress, and now we want to publish our first post. So a couple things before we get into the technical side of the step-by-step process, what you need to do to publish your first post. I want to first get a little bit touch just very briefly on the storytelling side of writing your first blog post. And I came up with a couple questions that I think are good to answer as you come up with the framework and come up with the outline for what you want your blog post to be. And some of you might already be very familiar with what you want to write about. That might be why you're creating this website in the first place, is because you have such a strong idea of what you want your first post to be. So this might not be helpful, but if this is your first time, I think you can use this as a template to really help you write a compelling and strong first post. So the questions to answer: what's the purpose of your blog? When someone lands here, what do you hope they get out of it? Who are you writing to? I think knowing your audience is absolutely critical. That will help dictate what kind of content you write. It will dictate perhaps how frequently you write. It will for sure dictate who you're writing to, and perhaps the voice that you'll use when you're writing. And as I mentioned before, ask yourself, what do you want to share with your audience? Are you hoping to give them information, perhaps recipes, perhaps how to fix a car? And in my photography case, maybe how to shoot portraits in low light. Really have an idea of what you want your audience to come away with after they've read your post. And then I think another great question is, what are your goals with this post? Do you want someone to click on a link that takes them somewhere else? Do you have a call to action? Do you want them to share this with a friend or someone that they care about? Or do you want them to perhaps download something? All of that can be incorporated into your plan as you ask yourself these questions. And then I think the final thing is, what voice do you speak with on your blog? And that can be casual, it can be formal, it can be funny, it can be serious. All of this is completely up to you, but I think asking yourself that question and starting to give yourself that direction can really help you out as you're starting to make your blog. And obviously all of this will be a little bit dynamic. There's no right or wrong approach to this. You have to pick what works best for you. So once you've kind of decided what you'll be writing about, going back into our website builder, over on the left, we make it pretty simple. You just click on blog. It will say, do you want to add a blog to your site? Yes. Obvious red arrow is here to help us through this process. On the left, you can click on menus and pages. It'll show all the menus and all the pages that are currently on your website. And if you click on blog, it'll show what you have there. I already went through and was playing with this already. So you can see I have something in there. And you can click on a section, which is in the top left part, and add WordPress blog. And then from there, you can pick from a couple different layouts if you'd like. You can have a blog listed out if you'd like. And then once you pick the format that works best for you, you can click on this little settings icon, that little cog that's in the middle of the picture. And that will take you out of the Bluehost WordPress builder experience, and it'll take you into native WordPress experience. And it'll say, you sure you want to save and exit from the website builder? Yes. And this is your regular WordPress dashboard. So if going back to one of the first steps we took, we had the option of going with the builder on the right or just straight into the dashboard on the left. If you clicked on the left, you'll get into this view almost directly. And if ever this is overwhelming or too much and you want to go back into the builder, over on the left where it says website builder, if you click on that, it will take you right back into the view that we were just looking at. This specifically is the blog post that I wrote previous to this, how to be a successful photographer with only an old flip phone. I don't actually have an answer for that. I was just having fun with this. I'm sure there are people out there that would be amazing photographers with only a flip phone, but I don't think that I'm one of them. So once we click on that, it will take us in where we can put in our text, we can add our images, whatever we feel like we want to add to this blog article, we can do here. We can, Yoast is automatically included, so we can improve our SEO by utilizing Yoast. We can include a header image One of the things that we can choose is when we publish it, if you click on that hyperlink where it says near publish, where it shows the date, if you click on that, you can choose when it's published. So perhaps not with your very first blog post, but down the road, you can choose when you want your blog post to go out. So if you're feeling very inspired, you can write 5 or 6 blog posts at once and then schedule them to go out over the course of the next few days or few weeks or whatever cadence you determine is best for you. And then when you're ready, you can click publish on the top right, and this will go live. And if you want to get back to the dashboard we were just looking at, you can click on the W on the top left, and that will take you back to where we just were. So we have now chosen our hosting, we've purchased our domain, we've installed our WordPress page, we have chosen our theme, and we have published our first page. So we're doing great. We're making tons of headway, lots of progress. Chapter 4 is helpful plugins and staying secure. So as I mentioned before, security is key, and plugins, for anyone that is building their first WordPress site, it's basically like a little add-on. I almost think of it like an app for your smartphone, where it's not something that comes native necessarily, but it's very easy for you to add to your website, and it will give some additional functionality or feature set to your website. So 4 plugins that I think are very important when you're building a blog. Yoast. If you're building a blog, you're sharing your story, you're sharing your voice with the world. So it only makes sense that you want more people to read what you're writing. And with Yoast, you can get a higher page ranking on the search engine results page. Can't necessarily promise that you'll be #1 on Google, since almost that's a very difficult task, but this can definitely increase your ranking on not only Google, but any other search engine results page. Jetpack is another great plugin. It increases your performance, it helps you with your security, and it also gives you site analytics. So I think those are all great things whenever you're building your blog. Smush optimizes and compresses your images. So if you have a blog that is image heavy, whether it's photography or travel or even recipe or whatever your blog might be, if you're using a lot of images, especially if they're like raw or edited images, that can take up a lot of space. And so that can be very resource intensive on the server. Utilizing something that compresses your images and optimizes them, like the plugin Smush, that can really help with your website's load time and the optimization of your website overall. So that can increase, or that can make your site load more quickly and also lessen the strain on the server. And the final one here is the plugin called Akismet, which is great for keeping spam out of your comments. And I believe Jetpack does this as well. But as you continue adding blog posts to your page, I think it's wise to engage with your audience, and that means comments. Giving people the option to comment on your blog posts, to share their feedback, to share their thoughts on your blog posts, I think is a great way to engage with your audience. So the sad part of the internet is that there are trolls and there are bots and there are spammers out there. So whenever there is an opportunity for a comment, there is an equal opportunity for a troll or a spammer to leave a nasty remark. So using something like Jetpack or Akismet to filter out those spam comments and those trolls, that can be a big, big help, especially if it's a bot that's just trying to take over and completely filling up all of your comments. You don't want to deal with that. So Akismet can really help with that. And excuse me, the last technical part that I'm going to be covering today is keeping your website secure. Security is not a very popular thing to talk about. I think it's kind of like insurance, where no one really wants to pay for it until you need it, and then you're really glad that you paid for it all along. So security, obviously no one wants their site to be hacked. So there's a couple different things you can do to make sure that your site stays secure. Number 1, the first and foremost is staying up to date with all your themes and your plugins. Luckily, if you're a Bluehost user, we make this really, really easy for you, and we automatically update your themes and plugins for you. The only reason you wouldn't want to do this is if you have a highly customized website, because when there's an update that happens to a theme or plugin, it usually overwrites the customizations unless you are very, very careful and particular about it. So for 90% of the people out there that are just using out-of-the-box themes and plugins, automatically updating or going through and manually updating, you're making sure that nothing is out of date, is one of the best things you can do for security. Turning on CAPTCHA or anti-spam for your WordPress admin login is also a great thing you can do to keep your website secure. You can log into your WordPress dashboard from any browser, anywhere that has an internet connection. But sadly, that means that hackers out there will try to break into your website. And some people might be thinking, yeah, but my website's too small. Why would they want to hack mine? I don't presume to know why hackers do the things they do, but I can tell you that often they try to target smaller websites because they think that they won't have as much security as perhaps larger websites. So turning on CAPTCHA, which is just the little thing that says prove you're not a robot. Sometimes it's as simple as just clicking the box that says I'm not a robot. Sometimes it's like a small math equation. The ones that I hate are the ones where it says click on the traffic lights or identify the crosswalk, click on which box the crosswalk is in. I'm not a fan of those just because they're annoying for me, but they are very effective at stopping robot traffic from trying to hack into your website. Next thing to keeping your website secure, only give out the permissions that are necessary for anyone accessing your WordPress dashboard. And this is again kind of like the hiking metaphor. Maybe we'll use a house cleaner metaphor. If someone is coming in to clean your house, you might need to give them access to your front door. But that doesn't mean you should give them access to your front door, your computer password, the keys to your safe, and a copy of your social security card. Definitely not. You only want to give the permissions that are necessary for someone to carry out the task that they need to. And WordPress makes that easy. Whenever you add a user, you can choose what permissions you'll give them by the profile you give them. So like editor, writer, edit, administrator, all of those have different permissions. Next, using a security plugin, something like Jetpack or SiteLock, that can help with malware attacks, spam, other bot attacks on your website. That can help mitigate those risks. And last but not least, I always think maintaining a backup is absolutely critical. Like my 5th grade teacher used to say, save now and save often. And I think that is true when building a website as well. I think it's good to keep a copy of a backup from a week ago and a month ago and sometimes a year ago, because if you do get hacked, the easiest way to get rid of it is just to reinstate previous backup that you have. So I always say make a backup before and after you make any major changes to your website. And if you follow these tips, it will be huge in keeping your website secure. So that's a lot of the technical side, as I said in the beginning. Up next, we have Tiffany joining us, and she's going to be talking a little bit more, as I mentioned, about the storytelling side, different ways that you can improve your blog to really tell a compelling story. So Tiffany, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks,
Awesome.
Devin.
You bet.
So yeah, another really big piece whenever you're first starting out or even updating your blog is creating that seamless layout and really identifying a design that's going to resonate with your viewers. The biggest piece of this is owning your brand. So first impressions are huge. That's nothing new. A good branding is synonymous with a good first impression. This means picking colors and a layout that really flow with what your brand is. If you're a blogger about the coast, talking about life on the coast, maybe it's having colors that are synonymous with the ocean or something along those lines, or maybe even imagery of beaches or nautical or something like that. Another really big piece is remaining authentic. So it's knowing who your audience is, but also knowing who yourself is and sticking with that and continuing that on and showing it all through your blog. Another great way is knowing your niche. So, you know, if you're a blogger about the coast, you wouldn't usually have a reason to talk about Montana or something like that. You know, it's really sticking with knowing what your audience wants and what they're looking for. I think another really big piece of owning your brand is having a mobile responsive layout. So what this means is, you know, when you go to a website from your phone or your mobile device, how is that website showing up? What are you seeing? Does it look appropriate? Are things weird to click on, or does everything flow? You want to really keep that in mind because most traffic on the internet nowadays comes from mobile. There's still a percentage that comes from desktop and tablet and things like that, but with such a high percentage of traffic being mobile, you really have to keep that in mind. Next would be writing compelling content for SEO. Your strong content is the #1 way people are going to find your blog. So whether it's, you know, through organic search or others sharing your post, having that really strong content that resonates with your readers is what's going to keep your blog alive. You want to make sure you're creating content that, again, meets your niche's needs. Is it people coming to your coast on your, you know, coastal lifestyle blog and looking for 5 things to do this holiday weekend? Or is it, you know, what items should I be packing for my weekend on the coast? Those kind of things are really important. And we'll get into a little bit how you can identify some of those things. Another great way to consistently be creating creative content is building a content strategy. You know, our team builds a content strategy usually a year at a time. We're looking all across the whole year and saying, okay, first, you know, let's pull out the seasonal events. Is it, you know, holidays or sales or things like that? What of those pieces can we pull into our content? And then, you know, really getting into the content creation is seeing how we can batch content, you know, coming up with 50 ideas and then doing keyword research on all of them and then laying out outlines for each one. And so then each piece is ready to go whenever we are ready to sit down and really crank that article out. I think that's super important when it comes to building a content strategy. The other really important piece for writing compelling and creative content is incorporating SEO into your content strategy. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And most people, especially bloggers, really think of this as, you know, how do I get noticed on Google? SEO is using search engine optimization is the best way to get your blog seen on Google. I'm not promising that it's easy, but it can definitely be done, especially with tools. You know, when you're searching for keywords using tools like Google Keyword Planner, Moz, and a few other ones, you can really identify, you know, what your audience is searching for. So, you know, if you are a travel blogger maybe, or a travel and food blogger. I had a great example. There's a screenshot from Google Keyword Planner. You can see at the top, my idea or my keyword was places to eat in New York. And then down below, you can see it lists out my keyword as well as a ton of other keyword ideas that I could also use in my post. The most important things to look at here, or at least the most important things for myself, are usually the average monthly searches and the competition. So I always say high monthly search and low competition is usually a really great place to be. as you can see, Places to Eat New York, it's 1,000 to 10,000 searches a month. So that's a pretty hefty search volume. So I might make that one my H1 or maybe the title of my blog. And then going down through some of the other ones, picking out a few of those other keywords to put into an H2 or an H3. It's really important because, again, this is what people are actually searching for. So when they're typing this into Google, this is how they could end up landing on your blog or website. Another really great way to bring in SEO strategy to your blog is with backlinks. So whenever you're first starting out, it might not be as easy. You could probably link back to, if you're a fashion blogger, you could link back to Nordstrom or other, fashion related sites or other fashion bloggers. But as you get going and you create more posts, you can have internal backlinks, which are really great ways to, drive traffic to your own blogs, but also it tells Google like, hey, this site has authority. And we'll get into more about domain authority here in just a minute. So amplifying your voice, you can create all the greatest content in the world, but if you're not amplifying it, what's the point? I think the greatest way to really amplify anything you're creating is by sharing your content on social media. So, it's putting your links out there. If you create a blog article, and you want it seen immediately in front of lots of faces, putting it out there on social media is the best way, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest or Instagram. It's going to get seen and usually seen pretty quickly. And in turn, this also helps build your domain authority. So whenever Google sees your links out there on other websites, whether it's social media or another blog or a website, they look at that and say, hey, this person has authority. They know what they're talking about. And it ends up helping you kind of in the long run. Again, going back to that SEO strategy, Google will in turn, want to sort of reward you and start, potentially bumping you up in search results and things like that. Another great way to amplify your voice is to partner with other creators. So there are tons of bloggers in tons of different spaces. You can partner up with them for things like giveaways and guest posts. This is a great way to get your blog or your brand out there in front of other audiences. Traditionally, we like to say partner up with people in a similar niche or one that's closely related. So then those new eyes that you're getting are also ones that will resonate with your brand. Another really awesome way to amplify your voice is engage with the people that are already engaging with your brand. These people are coming to your blog, they're commenting on your blog, they're already exploring the content that you're putting out there. Respond to them, let them know that you're happy they're there, or that you have an answer to their question or that kind of thing. And the same goes for social media. If people are popping on your Instagram and saying, hey, love this outfit, or these tips for traveling really worked for me, let them know that you're here and you're a real person. It really gives people the warm fuzzies whenever they see brands responding. So I think the same thing goes for blogs, definitely. Another thing to keep in mind is be consistent. If your if your readers know that every Wednesday a new blog is coming out from you, that they're going to come to you on those Wednesdays and be waiting for those blogs. It's really important to, especially early on, establish a regular posting cadence, or at least some kind of cadence that tells your readers, hey, I'm here and I'm going to stay here, and I want you to see what I'm doing. And I think more than anything, it goes back to remaining authentic and making sure that you're able to uphold the standards you've set for your brand, and that you are able to continue to really show that through your content. And last but not least is monetizing your site. I know for most content creators, making money is the goal. It's always the goal. I think it's an important part of running a blog. Next slide, Devin. So let's start making money, but when you're ready. Monetization doesn't always come easy. It definitely takes a little more work. You have to put in a little more effort, but it's definitely doable. A couple easy ways that we recommend is joining affiliate networks. So the Like to Know It app is really great for sharing on social media. They have a really great interface, and it works well with platforms like Instagram. It's a really popular one with fashion and lifestyle bloggers. Another great one is Amazon affiliates. This is one that works really great. I've used it on my personal blogs for years. It's, you're able to share the products you're using or different things that Amazon sells, and you get a commission from that. So that's one really great way that you can start making money. Another great way is partnering with brands that you're already using. There are millions of brands out there. We probably, looking around my desk, I can see 25 different brands of things sitting on my desk. You never know when you're reaching out to these brands what they're going to say. It could be something as simple as you're asking for a product or maybe compensated travel or something along those lines, or you want to pitch them an idea about writing for their site or writing content on your site, and seeing if they have a budget for it. Those are the kind of things that are going to get you paid to write about the things you're already writing about. And what's the worst that can happen? They can say no, and then you can pitch a whole new brand. So definitely a great way there. Another way you can make money is by joining influencer networks. So these are platforms like Mediavine, Sway Group, Upfluence, She Media. And how these work are companies, let's say Coca-Cola, Maybelline, MAC Cosmetics, things like that, they go and share their campaign ideas with the people who work at these influencer networks and say, we're looking for 10 influencers who have this many followers and gets this amount of engagement. And then you as a blogger or website owner or influencer would have signed up for those platforms and can say, these are the kind of campaigns I'm interested in. Here's my numbers on social and that kind of thing. Most of those platforms offer all paid campaigns. So definitely great ways there. You can also kind of take it into your own hands and create your own branded merchandise. If you are a vegan blogger, maybe it's creating a funny hat that says, vegan on it, or a comfy sweatshirt or something like that. And you can leverage drop shipping. So then there's not really a heavy lift on your end. It's creating some cool merchandise and then setting up drop shipping, and then that stuff automatically gets going and you see the revenue. And last but not least is selling your own products or services. So, if you want to offer coaching services, or you want to host a paid webinar or something like that, that's another really great way, especially as you continue to establish yourself as an expert in your industry. So yeah, those are some really great ways that you can monetize your site. And I think that's all we have. We can roll into some Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. That was awesome. So we have a few minutes to answer some of the questions. I tried to answer a couple via the question box. I wasn't able to get to everyone's. Some of them are very site specific, so I'm not sure we'll be able to get to those, but I do want to try to get to as many as we possibly can. So a handful of questions on themes. Let me see if I can knock out a couple of these already. First question, I apologize I didn't bring this up. What is a theme? A theme is essentially the clothes that you put on your website. So sometimes it comes with, essentially it dictates the look and feel of your website. So it will change the layout, where the buttons are, where the menu is, things like that. And you can change the theme, obviously, to change what your website generally looks like. Someone else asked where you can see if a theme is currently being updated or if it's currently being developed. If you go to wordpress.org/themes, that's where that screenshot was that said that there's like 9,400 themes that are free and available. You can click on any of those themes to download them to add them to your website. But if you click on show more details for that theme, I'm looking at it on my other screen here. One of the stats it gives you is the last time it was updated. So for example, the first one that I clicked on randomly is the theme called Astra. I think I saw someone else in the questions said they were using that. It was last updated on March 3rd, 2022. So that was still within this month. So it's safe to assume that they are actively developing that. It also shows how many active installations there are with this theme, and it's over 1 million active installations. So that can also, not that the go with the herd mentality is always the best, but it does give you a little bit of solace in the fact that other people are using this theme. Another theme question, and I'm sorry if I'm going very quickly, I'm trying to get to all the questions that we have before we run out of time. Another question that someone asked, can you build a site on one theme and then change your theme after building a site? The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is yes. And the reason for that is when you change a theme, it won't change your content, it won't change your pictures, it won't change your posts, it won't change your plugins. However, it can change the layout of your website, and in fact, it will change the layout of your website, but it might change it in a way that your website doesn't look as good as it used to. For example, perhaps the parameters for your image is different from one theme to the next. So if you get a picture that specifically fits the dimensions of one theme, if it's forced into the dimensions of another theme and it doesn't fit, then it might look weird or feel stretched or seem a little bit out of place. So it's not impossible to do. It's not that uncommon either. You can definitely do that. However, as I mentioned before, if you do that, get a backup of your website with all of your files so that if something looks terribly out of place, you can always restore from a backup and it will look just like it did before. Also, small plug for Bluehost. If you go into your WordPress dashboard and click on the Bluehost plugin, Bluehost offers free staging. And a staging environment is basically taking a carbon copy of your website and taking it offline so that you can do whatever you want to the staged environment and it doesn't affect your website. So in this situation, you can take your website, move it into the staging area, or just make a copy of it into the staging area and try a different theme, and you can see how it affects your website. And if you like how it looks, then you can merge that back to the live and it will make the changes permanent. And if you don't like it, you can just delete that staging environment and your live website will never be affected. Okay, we're cruising through it. Some people only saw my face. I'm sorry. But this recording will be sent out to everyone that signed up for the email, and it will also be posted on our YouTube channel at Bluehost. So those are two other places where you should be able to see it, and it will have the slides and the recording and not just my face. So I'm sorry for anyone that just saw that for the duration of the time. Someone asked for the support. Is the support that we're getting with the theme for bloggers or for readers of the blog? The support, it depends where the support is coming from. I think I mentioned support in two different places, so let me try to address both of them. One of them was when you're evaluating a host, you want to make sure that you have good customer support. That support is for whoever is developing the blog or developing the website, whoever's building that, whoever is owning that Bluehost account. And they can help you with things like uploading pictures or connecting to your website or getting your email configured, things like that. The other place I mentioned support was if you're buying a premium theme or if you're looking at themes, you can see what kind of support they offer. And as I mentioned, I have the Astra theme, ASTRA, on my other monitor here. And even though it is a free theme, I'm looking, and under support, it says you can view the support forum. So they have a forum where you can ask questions, and anyone in the Astra community can respond to it. And that support is also for the people that are developing the website, not for the readers of the blog. So for the readers of the blog, probably whoever is the writer of the blog should be giving the support for them and engaging with them. But if someone is building the website and they need support, then they can go to the theme developer. Okay, cruising through. Tiffany, I'm going to find a question for you because
There were a couple
the
on H1, H2, H3. I think we can address
okay,
that.
yeah, I saw that. Do you want to tackle those real quick?
Yeah, so H1 is H1, H2, H3 are heading tags. These are usually, and H1 is traditionally like the title of your blog post or article. And then H2 and H3 are supporting items. So usually they would be other keywords or things that closely relate to your H1 tag. You can use these throughout your article. The recommendation is usually only one H1 tag, and then really any number of H2 and H3 tags. It's kind of the hierarchy. So think of an outline. You'd first create the idea and then supporting, and then maybe something else supporting that supporting information. That's how you would look at H1, H2, H3, almost like a stair step kind of a thing.
Tiffany, another question for you. Someone asked if you could briefly go over again how to find a good keyword. Do you want me to go to the slide part, or do you just want to address that briefly? And obviously someone can go back through and rewatch this, but maybe just a little bit more detail.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go back to that slide and I can
Okay.
show a little bit. So on the right side of the screen, you see the Google Keyword Planner screenshot. So at the top, it says places to eat in New York. That is the keyword, or maybe I shouldn't say keyword. That's the idea, right? Keywords are just ideas. They work kind of similar to hashtags or anything like that. So you can put one keyword in there. So that keyword, that's kind of a long tail keyword. It's, I don't know, however many words. If I wanted to put 2 or 3 different ideas, you just separate them with a comma, and then even more ideas will come up. But really it's, you have to figure out what the piece of content you want to create first is. So if I was trying to create a blog on all the restaurants I ate at in New York City last week, I could use this as a keyword, places to eat in New York. And then, you just kind of go from there. And maybe this isn't the exact title or thing I wanted to target. I could look at all of the other keyword suggestions that Google gave me down below and maybe use one of those. So a keyword it doesn't have to just be one word. It can be 10 words, which is traditionally known as like a long tail keyword. It can be 1 or 2 words, which would be more traditional, just keyword. But yeah, that's definitely high level of finding a keyword. But Google Keyword Planner, like I said, it's free and it's a really great tool to be able to dig into what people are actually searching.
Awesome. All right, thank you for going over that again. In closing, I've seen a couple different questions about backups. I haven't been avoiding them, but there's like 15 different ways that you can do backups. So it's kind of hard to say which is the best way. Probably the easiest way is just to get like a backup plugin. And if you, excuse me, go to your WordPress dashboard, on the left, you'll see an area where you can click on plugins. And just like themes, you can see when the last time it was updated. You can see how popular of a plugin it is, and you can search for backup. And you can find a plugin backup that will help with that. You can also pay for a service such as CodeGuard, I believe Bluehost offers. In fact, there might even be a free version of CodeGuard that allows you to take backups. And I think if you get the paid version, they might store them on their cloud. There's some extra functionality that you get if you pay for it. So might be worth looking into that. And also you can also just manually log into your files and manually download them to your computer. And excuse me, I usually, the very best practice is to keep a copy of your website one on your server so you can access it from anywhere you can access your website, and another copy on your desktop. So something that you can download to your desktop. That way, if something happens with your server, excuse me, I apologize. If something happens to your server, you still have a copy offline of your website. That's the very, very best practice. However, I don't know a lot of people that do that, but like I mentioned before, a backup is kind of like security, where it's like you don't really want to deal with it until you wish that you had it, and at that point, sometimes it's too late. So it's always good to have a couple copies, especially before and after any major changes. So that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I enjoyed talking about this. One of my passions is to help people bring their dreams online and to help people build something. So I always enjoy talking about this, especially helping people get started, getting them the tools that they need to help bring their ideas and their passions and translate that into a website that they can send links out to their friends and family to come and visit. So I appreciate you all showing up today. I'm inspired by your willingness to learn, and I hope that you had a good time and learned with us today. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this will be sent out as a recording to everyone that signed up for the webinar, and it will also be posted to our Bluehost YouTube page under the webinar playlist, so you can find it there. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us today. I appreciate your time and your information. And thank you, everyone that joined us. We will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.